Hey, everybody. I wanted to talk today about regret in your midlife. And a lot of times we tend to make irrational decisions based on what we believe we missed out on in the last maybe 3 to 4 or 5 decades of our lives. And then we act on those bad decisions like I did 4 years ago.
Welcome, everyone. If you're new here, I'm Allie, and I'm a little obsessed with hiking as well as living a wonderful midlife. If you're not new here, you already know that, and welcome back. Today marks 4 months since my life fell apart after a nasty breakup. I'm regretting letting a toxic man into my life and wishing the last 4 years with him didn't happen. As I try to rebuild my life financially, I'm reminded every day of that mistake I made. Some days, it's difficult to muster the energy to push that regret back and work towards my future. But I refuse to give up, so I call upon some ancient knowledge to help me move forward. As always, a link to my complimentary post in the description. Be sure to check it out for more details and resources.
Recently, I took a trip to Colorado to visit my friend Stephanie and to hike. I had been living in Arizona with my mom after a really nasty breakup with somebody who I thought was going to be my partner for the rest of my life. We were together for 4 years and we met under the premise that I thought he was going to be fun and supportive. And I guess the answer to my midlife crisis. And in all honesty, he made it worse. I feel like these were the 4 years that I was the weakest in my life. And I actually do regret them. Let's go back 4 years when I started to live in my RV.
Well, I made it. My first dispersed camping.
After a divorce and becoming the empty nester and living my life again. And I was doing well. I was doing very well for myself. 6 months into that, I met him, and he just portrayed this fun, carefree lifestyle. My gut told me something was wrong, but I wanted to live a fun, carefree lifestyle too, so it matched what I was looking for. Over the years, his mask came off, and I realized fun, carefree was irresponsible, especially financially, and it rubbed off on me. I'm not saying this is his fault, that I'm going through a midlife crisis or having these regrets at 52 now, but I followed along and I feel like I was weak. And now I'm suffering the consequences by having to live with my mom, and I lost everything financially, including the RV that I used to live in. I didn't technically lose it. I let it go because I trusted him. I'm now living with this regret. So I go to Colorado, and my friend Stephanie offers for me to go, and I'm having a blast there. And then the day comes where I have to come back. No big deal. I'm refreshed. I can come back to Arizona and pick up my life again and find a job and get back out on the road. But on the way back in the plane, I'm looking down at the Colorado Rockies, heading west in the 737. And this sadness overwhelms me, thinking, I used to travel those mountains and hike those mountains. And now I'm going to go sit in a house. And I let my dreams go, basically. And that's when I realized how much I regret letting him into my life. The, Basically, the moral of the story is in a moment, well, that wasn't a moment, in a time of weakness for me, I let somebody in that I feel was toxic to me. And I continue to stay with him. And that's why I'm talking to you guys. There's a couple of lessons to be learned here. One, if your gut tells you to run, run. My gut told me to run. My instincts were saying, gosh, he is not good for you. And I still stayed with him because you know what? He was fun. Well, I'm not having fun now. I regret the last 4 years of my life. Yes, there was some really neat moments and I traveled a lot, but I regret having him as a romantic partner because I'm really, really having to struggle now. So I land in Las Vegas and I go back to Arizona. And I've got this overwhelming feeling of, well, regret. It feels like a second midlife crisis almost. And I'm fighting it. I've decided I'm going to fight it. This is it. No, I'm not going through this again. I'm not going to be weak. And I do some research on how to just barrel through this. Of course, I'm looking for a job. I'm looking for places where I can earn money. I'm creating YouTube videos. I'm writing on my blog. I've created a Substack. I've started to send in resumes, and I'm busy. I am busy looking for ways to earn an income. But every so often, I just feel so flustered and like I'm working backwards or something. And that regret just is hanging on my shoulders. And I have to fight it. And I've tried 3 ways to fight it. And I just wanted to briefly go over them really fast. And I wanted to ask you guys as well, how do you fight or deal with regret in your life? So the first way that I am dealing with this regret and just trying to push it aside or get rid of it is Stoicism. About a year ago, I started to study Stoicism. And without going into detail, because I am definitely not a teacher in this philosophy, but for me, it helps me to place my emotions aside and look at the facts. What are the facts right now? The facts are you're unemployed and you're struggling financially and you don't want to be here. Those are my facts. So, what are you going to do about it? Look for a job, deal with it. Sometimes I am actually going to cry, but I think sometimes that is my perimenopausal hormones. So, Stoicism helps me to separate the two because a lot of times I make bad decisions based on emotion. I think a lot of us do, especially in midlife. So I just look at the facts and come up with a plan based on that. Set the emotions aside. And that's how I look at Stoicism. There's other aspects to the philosophy, but right now that's how I am applying it. The second way is me manipulating my mindset. I think to myself on days where I really feel emotionally down and the regret is just overwhelming me. I've had a really bad day. And so I think, what would I tell my friend if she had those things going on in her life? And tell myself that. Listen, Allie, I literally sit myself down and go, listen, you've got this. You can make this happen. It's going to take some time. It's only been 3-4 months. You're 52 years old. You're starting over again. This is not easy, but I have to be my number one cheerleader, my number one advisor. The last tactic that I use to set that regret aside and not deal with it, because it will go away eventually, is to forgive myself. This is something that I learned years ago, maybe 15, that I need to stop bullying myself. I need to stop the negative self talk that I'm not good enough, that I deserve negative things. You know, if you're watching this, you know what negative self talk is. And it's because I haven't forgiven myself for being dumb. It's really hard. This is the hardest one to do because I feel I can't forgive myself until I'm financially stable again. So that's going to be a while. But in the meantime, I am working on it. I am working on dealing with the fact that I made bad decisions and that I'm just human. That work on myself psychologically and physically in other aspects of my life that are not financial and be stronger in those aspects so I don't let in a negative person into my life again. I wanted to toss this over to you. So, how do you deal with any kind of midlife regret? I want to hear from you guys. Leave a comment down below. So, as usual, I do have a complimentary blog post and I will link it down below. It goes into a lot more detail about how this regret came about in my life, as well as some links to resources that I've used to get through midlife regret, including the Stoicism and some books that are helping me right now. And I thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end if you did make it. And I will know that you watched it all the way to the end because you're going to leave a comment down below on what you do to deal with midlife regret. Thank you and have an amazing day.
I made it.
This is the end.